The minor league season is finally upon us, and on today's show, I'm breaking down the 10 big questions Texas prospects faced this season. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Paddock, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into these big questions about the Rangers minor leaguers this season, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Now, we have arrived at the beginning of the minor league season in earnest, though AAA started last week. We are finally here at the other affiliates opening day today, Friday, April the 5th. And they've got some big questions this minor league season, even though the Rangers' 2 top prospects are in the big leagues, and so they will be referred to as big leaguers for now and forevermore. The Rangers still have plenty of really interesting prospects in their top 10, in their top 30, and even some guys outside of the top 30 who could make an impact on this Rangers squad both now and for years to come. Let's start with the roster breakdown, where each of these top prospects, how many top prospects, at least on my top 30 list, each of these different affiliates have. In AAA, we have 8 prospects up there. AA, we have 4. High A, 7. Low A, 4. So mainly concentrated at 2 affiliates. A lot in AAA. A lot of those guys are, well, we've got the big pitchers in Jack Leiter and Owen White. And, well, we had Justin Foscue there, but he is not included on there because he is a big leaguer now and soon will hopefully officially be a big leaguer, get his first big league at bat, first big league hit. He'll probably end up back down there for a stretch this season, depending on how things work out. But at this point, mainly High A and AAA is where the conglomerate of affiliates are. And that's where most of the top 10 guys are as well, is at those 2 places. There have been a few injuries early on in spring training that the Rangers had to deal with. Josh Steven will be out for the first couple of weeks due to lower back soreness. He had an injection, I believe a cortisol injection, so he will miss the first couple of weeks. I expect him to be in AA whenever he does come back and is healthy. One of the more interesting pitching prospects, a guy who was a undrafted 2020 signee from the area. I believe South Grand Prairie is where he went to high school, and he's an interesting kid, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him this season at Frisco, because right now there's not a whole bunch of talent in Frisco. We've been pretty spoiled for the last few years. I mean, last year we started with Evan Carter in AA Frisco. Got to see a little bit of Wyatt Langford there for about 3 seconds, which was fun, and then he was up and on to bigger and better things. But I think reinforcements will be coming from High A, at least at the midpoint of this season, and I will be really excited to see those guys when they come through, and the guys that are already there in Frisco. Went to Frisco Rough Riders Media Day on Wednesday, talked to the skipper, talked to a few different prospects, including Abimelech Ortiz, who gave an interview mostly in English. He grew up in Puerto Rico, and his English was pretty darn good, pretty impressive. Had his skipper there to translate whenever he needed it, but a very affable kid, a guy who hits the absolute crap out of baseballs, had a fantastic season last year, and we'll talk about him later on in these 10 questions. But I want to start with, there was a couple more guys that were injured that I wanted to get to first. Isaac Tiger and Jose Corniel, both right-handed pitchers, both out 4 to 6 weeks with elbow inflammation. I believe that was a few weeks ago, so we will see when we actually get those guys starting their season. I think Tiger will probably start in low A because he was a draft pick in the 2023 draft class. Really impressed there. Didn't quite make my top 30. Jose Corniel, this guy who made it on the Rangers 40-man roster. I am not exactly sure where they're going to start him. I'm assuming Frisco, But we'll see once those guys hopefully get off the IL. Hopefully there's no worsening of the elbow inflammation that leads to any kind of Tommy John or anything like that. Hopefully it's just those 4 to 6 weeks and we get those guys back soon. Now, let's get to the number one question the Rangers are asking of their minor league system that need to answer this year. Can Jack Leiter keep hitters honest with those breaking pitches, throwing them for strikes? We saw a fantastic first outing from Jack Leiter this year, 5 innings in relief because there was a big leaguer doing his rehab assignment, so obviously that takes some precedence, but Jack Leiter looked absolutely fantastic in those 5 innings, no walks, 9 strikeouts, just a couple of runs, and the guy was absolutely dealing. Wasn't throwing the breaking balls as much as I would have liked, but was using that cutter a whole lot and using it very effectively, as well as his fastball. Getting swings and misses on the fastball and the cutter. Got a swing and miss on the slider. Didn't throw the slider very much. Didn't throw the curveball all that much, but was able to get a couple of called strikes there. That's kind of the name of the game with Jack Leiter. Can he hone in that command just a little bit? He is not missing the same place every single time with that fastball, so it's more of an effectively wild kind of repertoire. And of these Rangers, A class, top tier, tier 1 of their pitching prospects, even though I have Brock Porter a little higher than Jack Leiter, that's more because I think Brock Porter's ceiling is higher than Leiter's. But Jack is already in AAA. He looked really good in big league spring training, and the Rangers feel very good about him getting there. He's much closer. There's no such thing as a pitching prospect, and as much as I love Brock Porter and think he's going to have a really good season this year, Jack Leiter is one step away and 23 years old and was already pretty well refined once he came out of the draft. Porter's got a long way to go. The ceiling is much higher, the floor is much lower, but with Leiter, I have the most hope in him of eventually becoming a number 3 starter of these Rangers A-tier, tier 1 pitching prospects. There's still some work to be done. Still have some questions about the breaking pitches that both flashed like they could be double plus pitches coming out of the draft. That really hasn't been the case. The slider has been at times ahead of the curveball. It seems like the curveball is back ahead of the slider, is at least using that more often now, and using that cutter a little bit more than the slider, a cutter like his dad threw, and we really haven't seen very much of the changeup, if at all. He might have just gone ahead and scrapped that, but if he can be a 4-pitch pitcher and all 4 of those pitches are pretty darn good in the 4-seamer, cutter, slider, curveball, if he can throw them all for strikes, and because he does that, get hitters to chase out of the zone on those breaking pitches when he throws them in the dirt or out of the zone or just well enough to get chases out of the zone. That is when it is going to take Jack Leiter to that next level. Now, the next question, the number 2 question that the Rangers have to answer this minor league season is how will Sebastian Walcott handle a massive, massive jump to Hickory? Sebastian Walcott is pretty universally the Rangers' number 3 prospect, and once Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter dust off their 100 and however many plate appearances they need to lose rookie or prospect eligibility status, Sebastian Walcott will be the Rangers' number 1 prospect. He's 6'4", 190, just turned 18 in March, and he was signed out of Nassau in the Bahamas. The kid is as toolsy as it gets, probably the strongest throwing arm in the system, some of the most raw power. The kid could absolutely light it up, and he's shown, despite being 6'4", he can play legitimate shortstop. That is not a question at this point. Maybe eventually he'll add a little bit more bulk and move off of it, move into right field or third base. But again, right now the Rangers have some pretty solid entrenched options, at least for the next 5 years in Josh Young at third base, and they have Corey Seager at shortstop, and we'll see if there is a question of whenever Corey Seager moves off shortstop. Sebastian Walcott is definitely on the short list of Rangers prospects that could make him do that. But Walcott had a fantastic season last year, mostly with the Arizona Complex League, a little bit with the Dominican Summer League team. The Dominican team, just nobody was pitching to him, so he had to get promoted a level because there was not a whole lot of competition. He was just getting thrown nothing but balls, but took his walks when he needed to. Lit up the Arizona Complex League with a 849 OPS, 7 home runs there in 35 games, 157 plate appearances, and then jumped all the way up to Hickory. Just bypassed low A and went all the way to high A as a 17-year-old. Granted, it was only for 4 games, but he was 5.3 years younger than the average Sally League player that year. And, well, he held his own. It was 16 plate appearances, but not too impressive. An on-base of 313, slugged 231. Not great, no home runs there, but still a very big jump for a kid with a lot of swing and miss in his game, a lot of swing and miss in the zone. He doesn't have a super elite walk rate. He'll take him if he needs to, but would like to see that improve and would like to see him not chase and expand the zone and not swing and miss as much in the zone. It's going to be an aggressive assignment. We'll know pretty early whether or not he is going to stick there. I think he'll play a lot of shortstop, even though Cam Cauley is there. But this is an aggressive assignment. It shows how much the Rangers believe in this kid, and it shows that, this is a potential star in the making. But this is a big challenge for him, and I'm excited to see how he handles it. Coming up, we're going to ask the other 8 questions the Rangers have, including some questions about how Brock Porter will handle some more advanced hitters. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Factor Meals. Eat stress-free this spring with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie. Also discover more than 60 add-ons every week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, and beverages to help you stay fueled and feel good all day long. What are you waiting for? Get started today and fuel up your springtime goals. Get chef-prepared meals ready on the table in 2 minutes with Factor's ready-to-eat meals, so you can get back to doing what you love this spring. No fuss, no mess meals. Factor meals eliminate the hassle of prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Simply heat and savor the good stuff. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnMLB50 and use code LockedOnMLB50 to get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next box. That's code LockedOnMLB50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnMLB50 to get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next box while your subscription is active. This episode is also brought to you by PrizePicks. Baseball season is here, which means it's your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. PrizePicks is the best way to get in on the action on sports in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks even offers injury insurance, so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For baseball games, if you have a player who registers 2 plate appearances or less, PrizePicks will have your back and not count that as a loss. PrizePicks is so simple to play, you can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now let's get to the number 3 question about the Rangers minor league system I have for this year. Number 3, can Brock Porter limit the walks against more advanced competition? Last year was a really good first pro season for Brock Porter. Started the year at number 88 on Major League Baseball, MLB Pipeline's top 100 overall prospects ranking, a pretty good ranking for him. He is 20 years old. He turns 21 on June 3rd. Rangers' 4th round pick back in 2022 that was basically like a first round pick, a first round talent. Because the Rangers went under slot on Kumar Rocker, that let them get Brock Porter, who has got a very, very high ceiling, probably the highest of any pitcher in this Rangers farm system. Last year at low A as a 20-year-old, started 21 games, ended up pitching 69 in 3rd innings, pretty darn nice, 95 strikeouts, 42 walks though, but did end up with a 2.47 ERA. Now, the walks were the big bugaboo for Brock Porter last year. His changeup was just so good, though. It was just too good for hitters of that level. They just weren't prepared for it, especially with how it played off of his fastball. Now, he's a little bit older. He is going to be turning 21 in June of this year, and so we'll see what he looks like against more advanced competition. Last year was a good starting point for him, but he needs to continue to get better, and I think that adding that slider, using a little bit more work on his breaking ball this year. Grant saw him in spring training and said he looked fantastic. The changeup didn't quite look as elite as it was before. Before it was in competition to be one of the better changeups around minor league baseball, at least in the Rangers system. I think it still is the best changeup of Rangers minor leaguers. But this kid had some really funky mechanics coming in to the Rangers system. There was a lot of work being done to make those mechanics much more repeatable, so he's not, turning his head all the way back and looking behind him before he's throwing the pitch. Just a little bit of overhaul on that, and so there is still a long way to go for Brock Porter. The stuff is still there. If you can limit those walks to not a 5.5 walks per 9, that's not going to work at Hickory. I'd love to see him in Double-A by the end of this season, but if he spends the full year at Hickory, that seems fine, especially if he's putting up solid numbers. Brock Porter is definitely the guy you can hope and dream on the most in this Rangers system, and if he's dominating, if he earns midseason promotion to Double-A Frisco, I'd be shocked if he wasn't universally considered a top 100 prospect in baseball, maybe even top 50. The stuff is there. Fastball is great. Changeup has shown at times to be elite, and if he can get a pretty darn good breaking ball to go along with that, which it looked like in camp he might just have that, then that is a great sign for the Rangers. We'll see how he looks against that upper-level competition, and I'm honestly floored that he isn't the opening day starter for Hickory today. That honor goes to, I believe, Winston Santos, but we'll see. I'm excited about him. Slider looks good, and we'll see what he does this year. Number 4 question the Rangers have to answer this minor league season: what does Kumar Rocker look like when he comes back? You might have forgotten about Kumar Rocker because he had Tommy John surgery last year, just 6 starts into his affiliated ball debut, and he looked good. He looked really good in Hickory last year. The Rangers learned their lesson from Jack Leiter and didn't start Kumar Rocker in Double-A. An aggressive assignment for Jack Leiter, and even though Kumar Rocker was a little bit older, had that Frontier League baseball under him, he also pitched in the Arizona Fall League right after the Rangers drafted him, or I guess right-ish after the Rangers drafted him. But through those 6 starts, 28 innings, 42 strikeouts, just 7 walks, and a 3.86 ERA. And right before he had that Tommy John surgery, he was on the verge of being promoted to Double-A Frisco. But alas, that's not what happened. He has been back on the mound this spring, and he's shooting for a mid-summer return. So probably sometime in July. I still have high hopes for Kumar Rocker. His ceiling, if anyone's ceiling is higher than Brock Porter's, I think it's still Kumar Rocker. I think he's still got the ceiling of an ace in there. There's definitely significant reliever risk with him. I mean, he's also reworked quite a bit of his delivery, so he's not putting as much stress theoretically on the shoulder and the elbow as he was. He is a big old dude, and he has got some big stuff. That slider's still nasty. The fastball's still nasty. Working on that changeup a little bit more, and we'll see. He's also throwing in a 2-seamer, started last year. So I think the ceiling is still insanely high with Kumar Rocker, and I wouldn't give up hope on him by any means. There's no such thing as a pitching prospect, but a guy of his caliber. I mean, if you had told me right before the start of 2022 that the Rangers would end up with Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, I would have been over the moon. I would have been so excited. I feel like I say over the moon about 100 times an episode, but I would have been just overjoyed the prospect of having both those guys. Now, things haven't gone as well as Kumar Rocker would have hoped from the start of his senior year, or junior year, his final year at Vanderbilt, but there's still a lot of developmental meat on the bone, and I think he still could be a fast riser through this system. We'll see what he looks like when he comes back. I wouldn't put too much stock in what's happening this year. Usually once guys in their first year back from Tommy John surgery, it takes a little time for the command to come back. So I'm thinking more about 2025, about a potential run at a big league job for Kumar Rocker. Feeling the same way about Jack Leiter, quite honestly. But still, I'm still holding out a lot of hope for Kumar Rocker. I hope that he is back, hope that he is healthy and can stay healthy, because if he can, that is a huge, huge bonus for the Rangers in their hopes to develop one singular number 3 homegrown starter. Coming up, we'll talk about the rest of these questions facing the Rangers minor league system, including a duo of young outfielders who really need to start showing some more progress at the minor league level. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on your every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investment involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Now, the number 5 question the Rangers minor leaguers must answer this season. Can the duo of Hickory young outfielders show some promise the Rangers have dreamed about for years? That young duo, of course, I am talking about Anthony Gutierrez and Jason Morrill. Both guys that are in my top 30 prospects, and Gutierrez is in the top 10. There's been a lot of hype on him for quite some time, but the results haven't quite been there just yet for them. They have been very young for their level, but the Rangers have shown that they have a lot of faith in those guys, both promoting them stateside while they were teenagers, and overall the results just haven't quite shown. The Rangers are still incredibly high on Anthony Gutierrez and Jason Morrill. Morrill last year showed a little bit more, but missed a huge chunk of his season due to injury, only played in 37 games last year. Showed a really great on-base percentage for basically the entirety of his minor league career. A 395 OBP in 2021, 391 in 2022, and 384 in 2023. Didn't show a whole lot of power. Neither of those guys did. They're still very young, still adding on power to that frame, but I'm excited for both these guys. The Rangers promoting them to high A shows that the Rangers still have belief in them. There is a grouping of young infielders that did not get the promotion that were signed around the same time as them and had similar track records, but a little bit less hype around them. So I'm excited to see what those two in Anthony Gutierrez and Jason Morrill can do in high A Hickory this year. And number 6, what will Paulino Santana's first season look like? You may not remember Paulino Santana. He is the Rangers' top signee from this international class, a $1.2975 million bonus for him. One of the top prospects in this international signing class in general. Number 2 international signing prospect, according to MLB Pipeline and a lot of other places. He is billed as a guy who can be a very fast riser. He's 17 years old, doesn't turn 18 until November, mid-November. He was born in 2006. Good Lord, that makes me feel old. But he will probably start the season in the Dominican Summer League. We'll see if he can get promoted to stateside ball, maybe the Arizona Complex League in his first year, but he has earned some lofty comparisons to guys like Julio Rodriguez as someone who could very, very quickly move through the system. That feels like a lot of pressure on a kid who's got all the talent in the world, but still is just 17 years old. He didn't start the season in full season ball because that would have been absolutely insane for the Rangers to have started him in full season ball. They will see what he looks like. I'm curious what his first season will look like, but still a whole lot of questions about him, but a lot of hype as well. Number 7, can the Rangers home grow an elite reliever? Or not even just fully homegrown, can they produce an elite or just pretty darn good reliever from their minor league system this year? The options for that include Mark Church. I think Emiliano Teodo will be considered there. Antoine Kelly just had a phenomenal outing where he nearly had an immaculate inning, 6 swings and misses, 10 pitches in his 1 inning of work. So we'll see what happens with Antoine Kelly. I'm really surprised that he didn't get more of a look in Rangers big league spring training. But other guys that I think the Rangers are keeping an eye on are Chase Lee, Grant Anderson, and Anthony Hupi Tuionatoa, or Bubba for short. Bubba was getting some looks at being a Rule 5 pick, a guy who I think could do really well this year. Missed a lot of time last year due to a nerve issue that just kept getting worse and worse and worse. He was very affable, very, very interesting to talk to at Frisco Rough Riders minor league media day. But I'm rooting for the kid. He's one of the better relief prospects the Rangers have in their system. I wouldn't be surprised if he earned a pretty quick promotion to AAA Round Rock, but there's a lot of relievers in that pen, so we'll see. Emiliano Teodo is going to start the year as a starter. I think the Rangers will keep him there as long as they can, but the Rangers could always use more help as elite guys in their bullpen go, and, I think that 1 or 2 of this group will end up making their big league debut this year, and I am really excited to see that. Number 8 question, can Abimelec Ortiz cut down on the strikeout rate this year? Last year was a huge breakout year for him, which we talked to him at Media Day when we asked about what kind of led to that. Is the answer was, well, I couldn't see before last year. I didn't have glasses and contacts like I needed. So last year the Rangers got him contacts, and that led to a phenomenal year for him. Just phenomenal. Hit .294 on the season, on base of .371, slugged over .600, a .990 OPS for the year, ended with 33 home runs, and also was a part of a championship in the Arizona Fall League. Got his ring, and he said it wasn't quite as nice as the Rangers World Series rings, but hey, he said this is what it's all about. It's all about winning. Loved the experience, that he learned a lot from guys in other organizations. The Arizona Fall League is a really interesting concept and execution of a minor league because there are guys from multiple teams all on one, or multiple organizations, I should say, all on one team. So you get to learn from guys in the Brewers system, guys in other systems in general. He said he learned a lot from that experience. So if he can cut down on that strikeout rate a little bit, he's working on getting better defensively at first base and playing a little bit more in the outfield. We'll see what that looks like, but the ability to hit, the ability to get on base, the ability to absolutely mash some baseballs real hard is not a question about Abimelec Ortiz after that breakout year last year. Question number 9. Do the breakout middle infielders of Cam Cauley and Echedri Vargas take another step this year? Now, Vargas and Cam Cauley are going to start in two different leagues. Echedri Vargas is going to start in low A with the Down East Wood Ducks, and Cam Cauley is going to start in high A Hickory. I think he and Sebastian Walcott are going to split some time at shortstop. We'll see a little bit of Cam Cauley at second, a little bit of Cam Cauley, at third. And I love what I saw from him this spring training. He looked fantastic, had a really great spring breakout game, was hoping to get some more at-bats there and go for the cycle in that game, but that didn't happen. A lot more offense from Cam Cauley, who is a glove-first guy. Vargas is a guy who really showed a lot more power than you'd expect for someone of his size and really broke onto the scene last year, had a .956 OPS between two different teams, a little bit of time, just actually one game in Down East, and mostly in the Arizona Complex League, where he hit over 300 there, slugged over 568 for the season, and just a really, really nice year for him with 11 home runs, the guy who is listed at just 5'11", 170. He's still got some swing and miss in his game, got a decent approach and walks at a decent rate, not quite elite, but if he can continue to tap in that power, be a legit shortstop, that is a big developmental win for the Rangers, because that might be a guy who sneaks into the top 10 by midseason. For Cam Cauley, if he continues hitting, there's no questions about his glove, but he can continue hitting for power, which he changed his approach last year after a not very powerful first pro season, but really broke onto the scene last year. I'm a big believer in this kid. He was on the show last year. Yeah, it was last year during the season, and I think that both these guys are going to continue to do big things this year. Still some questions about Vargas. A pretty decent sized jump, but it's not quite as big of a jump as it was for Sebastian Walcott. For for Collie. I think I was a little surprised that he started the year in Hickory, spent about half the year in Down East, half the year in Hickory, and I thought he might move up to AA Frisco, so there'd be a little bit less crowded infield in Hickory. But hey, I wouldn't be surprised if he earned a pretty early season promotion to AA Frisco to get some more reps at shortstop and at wherever the Rangers want, so he could be the primary guy who is getting, the looks at shortstop or wherever the Rangers are wanting to see him defensively at that level. Because right now, the priority is definitely going to go to Sebastian Walcott at Hickory. But still, Cam Collie is not a guy that you will want to sleep on. Now, the last question. Question number 10. This is the biggie. Can a second-tier pitching prospect jump into the first tier and give the Rangers some more hope at finally developing some homegrown starting pitching? This second tier of starting pitchers is not to diminish these guys in any way, but I think the class of Jack Leiter, Kumar Rocker, Brock Porter, and Owen White is still in that tier 1 for me. Very close on the border. I have a lot of questions about Owen White, but too many to fit into one succinct question for this episode. But those tier 2 guys like Jose Corniel, Josh Steven, Isaac Tiger, Emiliano Teodo, because he's a starter for now, and I think the Rangers are going to stick with it as long as they can. Aiden Curry, Mitch Bratt, and Winston Santos. Now, Mitch Bratt, I think, is the guy with the highest floor of all of these guys. I think that he's also got the lowest ceiling of all these guys because he's not really chucking particular gas. But him being so young and still being so young, he's starting the year in Hickory yet again. I'm a little surprised by that because last year he was a 19-year-old in Hickory, which was kind of crazy, but he was fantastic. I mean, he's been a fast mover through this system. He was 17 when the Rangers drafted him out of high school, 18 in his first full season in Down East, where he had a sub 2.5 ERA and 80 innings of work and nearly 100 strikeouts. Last year, 4 years younger than the average player in the Sally League, 3.5 ERA and 61 innings and 73 strikeouts. Still getting pretty good strikeout rates for a guy with not the most elite stuff, and limiting that walk rate to 2.5 walks per 9 last year, under a home run per 9. A really solid season, so I'm not surprised that he's starting the year again in Hickory. I think he's a guy who will also probably pretty quickly earn a promotion to AA Frisco. Didn't get as many innings as he would have liked last year, just 16 starts, 61 innings for him, and did spend some time in the Arizona Fall League, where it was just not a great performance for him. An ERA around 6.5 in 6 games. Only one of those were starts, 15 and a third innings. Just not the best performance for him. But hey, the kid is still very advanced. I think his floor is somewhere around, up and down guy to maybe number 5 starter, which is huge if that's his floor. Now his ceiling, I think maybe number 4 starter in the big leagues ceiling. But still, this kid is so advanced, a left-handed starting pitcher who is just 20 years old, won't turn 21 until the day before the 4th of July, so July 3rd. And I think that's very, very exciting. As for Emiliano Teodo, I'm very high on this kid. I really love talking to him at Frisco Rough Riders Media Day. That curveball that is also maybe a slider, he described it as more of a slurve. He said sometimes it has more properties like a slider, sometimes it has more properties like a curve, because that breaking ball, until he made that 4-seamer or 2-seamer and added some movement on that incredibly fast fastball, that breaking ball was his best pitch because it looked kind of like a curveball at 90 miles an hour. Sometimes he'd go a little bit lower, but again, that's him manipulating it, using it differently for different situations. And adding that 2-seamer, I think, can help him stick as a starter. And if you got a starter who's throwing, upper 90s to touching 100 and a breaking pitch that can go as high as, I think, 92 miles an hour is the fastest it was clocked at last year, which even a 92 mile an hour slider is really, really nice. And if that changeup can end up being much of anything for him, which I think it can be, that's a starter's repertoire. And at worst, I think he is an incredibly nasty reliever. And if the Rangers do decide to go that route and don't want to stick with him as a starter, he could be in this pen by the end of May, I think, because the stuff is incredibly nasty. As for these other guys, Corniel, Josh Steven, Aiden Curry, Winston Santos, I group them all kind of in a similar vein. They are all around the same level. I think of them pretty similarly. I think the Rangers are highest on Corniel because they put him on the 40-man roster, but I think I'm highest of Josh Steven of that group. We'll see what he looks like when he comes back from injury, but I'm excited for all those guys. I think that if those guys are your tier 2 starting pitching prospects, I think your Rangers are in a very good place, and they sure seem like it. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.